Hey everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Gary Talks. The biggest night in entertainment is coming up very soon, and I'm not talking about the Oscars. I'm talking about the Emmys. Yes, when I was younger, the Oscars were certainly considered the most prestigious award in entertainment. But that was when movies had all the movie stars and the big budgets. TV was kind of an afterthought. Movie stars didn't want to do television, and television stars wanted to be movie stars. But with peak TV, all of that has changed. Now, movie stars do television all the time, and you can't say that TV has smaller budgets when shows like Game of Thrones or Lord of the Rings have a bigger budget than most movies. And it seems that television is now where storytellers get to really flex their creative muscles. So all in all, I believe that television is now actually a bigger deal than movies, which makes the Emmys a bigger deal than the Oscars. And that's what I'm going to be talking about today. I'm going to look at some of the biggest awards of the Emmys, going to talk about who will win, and who I think should win, because that's not always the same thing. And I've got some very special guests on the show. We've got the Emmy nominee for Best Actor in a Drama Series for Slow Horses, Gary Oldman, and the Emmy-nominated director duo of Girl State, Amanda McBain and Jesse Moss. I've actually been lucky enough to attend the Emmys, and it's really fun. Now, people ask me, how do you get to go to the Emmys? Is it something that anyone can buy a ticket to? And the answer is no. Basically, you have to be part of the TV Academy, which is the voting block who votes on the Emmys. So yes, I do get to vote on the Emmys, which is really cool. But if you are a member of the TV Academy, then you get an invite and you can go to the Emmys, and it's a lot of fun. I mean, the Emmys are where Larry David did a chat and cut in front of us in line at the concession stand, and I called him out on it.
Just trying to get some popcorn, and they're all...
It's where I ran into Doctor Who, Matt Smith, in the bathroom, and it's where we saw Teddy Perkins from Atlanta and talked to him, which has now shown up in tons of conspiracy theories across the internet where they think we're talking to Michael Jackson, who is still alive.
Hello. I'm glad you're alive. I was a little worried. I thought it was a documentary.
They did technically kill me, but I did not die. I'm still alive.
So it really is a unique experience to be able to attend the Emmys, and I know they always say it's an honor to be nominated, but it's also an honor to just be able to go. So let's take a look at the Emmy nominees this year, and we'll start with Best Actor in a Drama Series. The nominees for Best Actor in a Drama Series are Idris Elba for Hijack, Donald Glover for Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Walton Goggins for Fallout, Gary Oldman for Slow Horses, Hiroyuki Sanada for Shogun, and Dominic West for The Crown. And this is one where I think the person that will win is the person that should win, and that's Gary Oldman for Slow Horses. Gary Oldman is poised to win an Emmy for Slow Horses because of his masterful portrayal of Jackson Lamb, a complex, flawed, and disheveled intelligence officer. Oldman brings a dark humor to the role, creating a character that is both compelling and unforgettable. His ability to convey vulnerability beneath a gruff exterior, and his seamless transition between drama and comedy showcases his exceptional range, making him a strong contender for the Best Actor in a Drama award. I had a chance to sit down and chat with the Emmy nominee himself. Here is my talk with Gary Oldman. Hi, Gary.
Hiya.
You know, this is the first time I've had another Gary on Gary Talks, so maybe I'll change the name of the show to Gary's Talk. Because I'm Gary and you're Gary and we're both talking, so, you know, it's Gary Talks and now it's Gary's Talk. Well, anyway, congratulations on your Emmy nomination as well as all the other nominations for Slow Horses. In your career, you've been nominated and have won many, many awards, but is it different to be nominated for a character that you've played for many years over multiple seasons?
Well, I think it's always nice if the work is acknowledged and that it indicates that people are out there and that they appreciate the work and they like the work. I don't think it's any different whether it's whether it's BAFTA or the Emmy or an Oscar.
But specifically for a character that you've played longer than you have others.
The work is the same. You come in, you try and you bring your A game, and it's a cherry on the cake, really, that the nod comes in, and we're seeing, and and of course we're very proud. So we're perhaps the little show that could, and now we're looking at 9 nominations. So we're very proud of it. That something that is very sort of culturally specific and at times very colloquial has gone further and has become international.
Well, I think it's great because with the nature of streaming TV, there are so many shows that just fly under the radar. But with these nominations, it feels like there's lots of eyeballs on Slow Horses now. And I got to tell you, I really love the show.
Yeah, and all the stories, for those who have maybe missed a few, it's all there. It's all there from season 1. And if there's any catching up to do, you can check us out on Apple TV Plus. We're thrilled. We've just finished shooting. Well, I've wrapped on the show. I think actually they may still just be shooting season 5. So that's something to look forward to next year.
Oh yeah, for sure. Now, I do want to ask you a question about Jackson's look. He's so disheveled, which kind of hides how smart he is and people underestimate him. Did you come up with that look after you figured out the character, or was the look first and you based the character on it?
Well, there is a sort of disheveled look to him, which is in the books. It's a process of elimination. You're presented with the clothes, the overcoat, the mac, the scarf, and it's a sort of it's quite a magical thing that happens, that you put something on and look in the mirror, and it'll speak to you or not. So it was a sort of I fell into it in a way. It was just something that comes off the rack, and it sort of seemed to work and fit the character, of one's idea of what the character should be. And of course, over time, the suit has become a little more wrinkly, and the Mac has got more cigarette burns and stains on it over time.
So if it's just getting worse, I don't even know what he's going to look like by the time you get to season 5.
I probably think I'm at my worst in season 5. I think you meet me with I've got quite a humongous hangover when you meet me in the next one. Yeah.
Well, that is something to look forward to. Congratulations again on all the nominations for Slow Horses, and best of luck at the Emmys. Thank you for being on Gary Talks.
Thank you.
Next up is going to be Best Actress in a Drama. The nominees are Jennifer Aniston for The Morning Show, Carrie Coon for The Gilded Age, Maya Erskine for Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Anna Sawai for Shogun, Imelda Staunton for The Crown, and Reese Witherspoon for The Morning Show. And here's one where I don't think the person that should win will win. I think Imelda Staunton will win for The Crown. Seems to be a lot of people who really loved her work in it. But for me, the best actress was Anna Sawai for Shogun. Anna Sawai should win an Emmy for Shogun because of her captivating portrayal of Lady Mariko, a character who embodies strength, grace, and resilience in a tumultuous world. Sawai's performance is both emotional and powerfully expressive, bringing depth to a character navigating the complexities of cultural conflict and personal sacrifice. Her ability to convey both of vulnerability and inner strength makes her a standout in the series, which is filled with super talented actors. Next up is Best Drama Series. The nominees are The Crown, Fallout, The Gilded Age, The Morning Show, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Shogun, Slow Horses, and Three Body Problem. This one, I don't see any show beating Shogun, and I don't think any show should, because it was the best drama on TV this year. Shogun should win the Emmy for Best Drama because it takes James Clavell's epic novel and turns it into a visually stunning and emotionally gripping series. The show excels in its rich storytelling, blending historical intrigue, cultural clashes, and personal drama with precision. The production design, cinematography, and attention to period detail create an immersive experience, transporting viewers to feudal Japan. Shogun stands out as a cinematic achievement worthy of the highest recognition. Next up is going to be Best Actor in a Limited or Anthology Series or Movie. The nominees are Matt Bomer for Fellow Travelers, Richard Gadd for Baby Reindeer, Jon Hamm for Fargo, Tom Hollander for Feud, Capote vs. The Swans, and Andrew Scott for Ripley. I do think that Jon Hamm is going to win the Emmy this year for Fargo. And it's not like he didn't do a great job, he did. But I think this is something where it's just a reward for an actor who has been around for a long time. People like him as a person, people like what he does, so I think he's going to win. But myself, I would give the Emmy to Richard Gadd for Baby Reindeer. Richard Gadd deserves the Emmy for Best Actor for Baby Reindeer due to his raw, fearless performance in this intense, autobiographical drama. Gadd brilliantly portrays the turmoil of a man grappling with obsession and trauma. His ability to capture the unsettling nature of the story makes his excellent performance deeply impactful. And next up will be Best Actress for a Limited or Anthology Series or Movie. And the nominees are Jodie Foster for True Detective Night Country, Brie Larson for Lessons in Chemistry, Juno Temple for Fargo, Sofia Vergara for Griselda, and Naomi Watts for Feud, Capote vs. The Swans. This is one where if it were 10 years ago, I think it would go to Brie Larson or Jodie Foster, because anytime a movie star did something on television, they got the Emmy as a thank you for gracing us with your presence. But this year it's not the case. I think the winner will be, and should be, Juno Temple from Fargo. Juno Temple is likely to win the Emmy for Best Actress for her role as Dot in Fargo because of her mesmerizing portrayal of a morally complex and unpredictable character. Temple brings a unique blend of charm, intensity, and volatility to the role, capturing the essence of Fargo's darkly comic and noirish tone. Her performance makes her character both compelling and unforgettable. Next is the Best Limited or Anthology Series or TV Movie. The nominees are Baby Reindeer, Fargo, Lessons in Chemistry, Ripley, and True Detective Night Country. There's really no show I can see beating out Baby Reindeer, and it was the most talked about show this year on television. And also, I think it was the best limited series. Baby Reindeer tells the supposedly true story of a wannabe stand-up comedian and the stalker who makes his life a living hell. But because he sort of enjoys her stalking him, he lets it go way too far before doing something about it, and I loved it. And now we come to Best Talk Series. The nominees are The Daily Show, Jimmy Kimmel Live, Late Night with Seth Meyers, and The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. And I gotta be honest, I don't really like any of these shows. None of them are ones I find entertaining. Some of them I even find annoying, like Stephen Colbert. But the fact that Jon Stewart is back on The Daily Show here and there, I think that will get all the votes, so I think it will win. And I dislike Jon Stewart the least of all those people, so I'm going to also say The Daily Show will win. And now the category that is near and dear to my heart because it's what pays my bills, Best Reality Show. The nominees are The Amazing Race, RuPaul's Drag Race, Top Chef, The Traitors, and The Voice. It seemed like forever anytime The Amazing Race was nominated, it won. I mean, really, it is just a huge production all over the world, and it deserved to win. But it's won enough. And then it seemed like anytime RuPaul was nominated, that show would win. But this year, I think The Traitors is going to win. It feels like The Traitors has been picking up momentum. It was one of the top-rated reality shows on TV, and it was one of my favorite shows on TV too, so I think it should win as well. The Traitors should win the Emmy for Best Reality Competition because it reinvents the genre with its psychological gameplay and dramatic twists. The show blends elements of strategy, deception, and social dynamics, which creates a gripping narrative that keeps viewers on the edge of their seats. With its fresh approach, engaging format, fantastic host, and relentless suspense, The Traitor stands out as my favorite reality competition show of the year. That brings us to Best Documentary. The nominees are Albert Brooks, Defending My Life, Girls State, Greatest Night in Pop, Jim Henson, Idea Man, and Steve Martin, A Documentary in Two Pieces. This is probably the hardest nominee to pick because all 5 of these were great and I enjoyed them all. But the one that I think is best, and I think is the one that will win, is Steve Martin, A Documentary in Two Pieces. Morgan Neville's documentary on Steve Martin is a captivating tribute to one of comedy's most multifaceted and enduring talents. From the outset, the film grabs the viewer's attention with a blend of rare archival footage, intimate interviews, and personal anecdotes that collectively paint a vivid picture of Martin's evolution as an artist. The documentary meticulously traces Martin's journey from his early days in stand-up comedy, where he revolutionized the genre with his unique blend of absurdity and sophistication, to his later successes in acting, writing, and music. Neville skillfully balances humor and depth, capturing Martin's comedic genius, while also delving into the personal and professional challenges he faced. And even though I think that Steve Martin is going to win Best Documentary, I'm not going to tell my next guest that. Here to talk about Girls State are the directors, Amanda McBain and Jesse Moss. Hey guys, welcome to the show. I want to tell you I really loved Boys State. How soon after making that did you start planning Girls State, and what led you to making it right here in St. Louis, Missouri?
We actually contemplated Girls State before we made Boys State. We were contacting the programs in both programs in Texas. And actually, we ended up getting access to Boys State first. And that was actually the program that had drawn our attention initially, was Boys State had voted to secede from the Union in 2017 in Texas, and that was the subject of some news attention. So that caught our eye, but we were just intrigued by the program for both boys and girls and wanted to explore it. And so we ended up getting access to Boys State, and it was a good time to do that. And but always in our mind was the desire to and really need to make this companion film. We call it a sibling, not a sequel. And so immediately after finishing Boys State in 2020, premiering the film, and the reception the film got, we were motivated to begin conversations with Girls State programs around the country and audition them, and wanted to leave Texas. The country's big and diverse, and so we ended up finding a program in Missouri that we loved, and it's an interesting state politically. And so in 2022, we went to Missouri to make Girls State.
How did you decide which girls to feature? What was that process?
Process makes it sound so organized. It was a journey of 4 to 5 months before the kids were going to convene in the suburb of St. Louis. We talked on Zoom to hundreds of kids who were headed to the program who wanted to talk to us. And then from there, whittled it down to a smaller group that we then went to visit in Missouri in their homes to see what they had on their walls, to meet their families, meet their dogs, to watch them do their extracurricular activities. We met all kinds of amazing people, but then it was pretty clear who that very small group was that was going to be comfortable and with having a camera on them for as much as we were going to have a camera on them. And they just had the confidence, the political confidence and ambition to do well in the Girls State program. So we wanted to follow them for that reason, but they also had the sort of emotional intelligence and confidence to share how they were feeling while a camera was on them, which is really not everybody. And so we were lucky enough to have met 7 extraordinary kids who all had very different paths through the program and different backgrounds. And that was important to us, kid from a small rural town, a very conservative kid, a very liberal kid, all that stuff. We needed the range of kids that we found.
Now, I read that you guys took the girls to Sundance and they got to watch the movie with a huge audience. What was that experience like?
I knew it was going to be exciting, to watch the film on a big screen with a big audience with our big cast. But I think it was so emotional. Here were these incredibly bright, beautiful young leaders giving it their all, and having a room full of, what is it, 1,300 people respond to that, cheer for them, cry for them, laugh. There was a lot of laughter. That was great, because I think all these things are part of the human experience. And to me, documentary, needs all of those things. But to have that big embrace was hugely meaningful, not obviously to us just as storytellers, but hugely meaningful to all those kids. And then they got the stage afterwards to do a Q&A and speak their mind, speak their truth, be themselves, and they're powerful people. So that was an extraordinary moment.
Finally, what do you guys think that audiences will take away from Girls State?
I think ultimately it celebrates a couple of values and virtues in American life. One is that democracy is not a spectator sport, that you have to throw yourself into this process to make it better. And it's a continual process. And that what's inspiring about this film is that these young women are not deterred by the divisiveness of our times. They are committed to reach across the aisle and forge connections and friendships with one another despite differences. And I think that's a hopeful message that audiences, regardless of their backgrounds, will take away from this story.
Well, thank you guys so much, and best of luck on your Emmy nomination. And now for the final category we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about comedies. First up, Best Actor in a Comedy Series. The nominees are Matt Berry for What We Do in the Shadows, Larry David for Curb Your Enthusiasm, Steve Martin for Only Murders in the Building, Martin Short for Only Murders in the Building, Jeremy Allen White for The Bear, and Ifeoro Wunatai for Reservation Dogs. And here's where I'm going to rant about the fact that The Bear should not be in the comedy category at all, because it's just not a comedy. See, what happens is whenever producers or production companies or studios submit a show, they get to choose the category they want to submit it under. And because Succession was a juggernaut in the past few years and was going to win the drama category, the people who made The Bear decided to call it a comedy. It would be much easier and they would win, and they did. And I think it's going to happen again this year. People really, really love The Bear, and they're going to vote for it. So Jeremy Allen White will win Best Actor, but I don't think he should. I think Steve Martin should win Best Actor for Only Murders in the Building, and 100% he should win it because of the song he had to sing in the show.
Which of the Pickwick triplets did it? Who of the crew would commit this crime? My little brat make a mommy go splat.
It's a story pretty gory for a nursery rhyme.
Which of the Pickwick triplets did it? Which of the spawn had the brawn to kill? Will a baby get tried for matricide? Coochie coochie coo. Time for you or you to admit it. So quick as a whip, got a Pickwick triplet did it.
And I'm not getting into a lot of the other categories, but I think The Bear will sweep almost everywhere, and I will be annoyed all night about it because I don't think it's funny. And I gotta tell you too, I'm also not a fan of The Bear. I know some of you are, some of you love it. I just didn't enjoy it. It was too stressful for me, and life is stressful enough. So now let's look at Best Actress in a Comedy Series. The nominees are Quinta Brunson for Abbott Elementary, Ayo Edebiri for The Bear, Selena Gomez for Only Murders in the Building, Maya Rudolph for Loot, Jean Smart for Hacks, and Kristen Wiig for Palm Royale. It's hard to bet against Jean Smart in Hacks. She's a legend, but I don't think she'll win. And as I said, it's hard to bet against The Bear, but I also don't think that will win this category. I think Kristen Wiig will and should win the Emmy for Palm Royale because of her exceptional portrayal of a complex and ambitious character navigating the high society of 1969 Palm Beach. Wiig brings her signature blend of sharp wit and emotional depth to the role, capturing both the absurdity and sadness of her character's journey. Her performance showcases her range as she balances humor with moments of genuine vulnerability. Wiig's ability to command the screen and elevate the material with her unique comedic style makes her a strong contender for the Best Actress in a Comedy Emmy Award. And finally, Best Comedy Series of the Year. And the nominees are Abbott Elementary, The Bear, Curb Your Enthusiasm, Hacks, Only Murders in the Building, Palm Royale, Reservation Dogs, and What We Do in the Shadows. As I said already, I think that The Bear will probably win Best Comedy Series, but I don't think it should. I think the winner should be Curb Your Enthusiasm. Yeah, this final season maybe wasn't as strong as other ones, but it was still a very entertaining show. And if this really is the end for Larry David and Company, they deserve to win the Emmy for Best Comedy Series. And that's all the time we have for this week. Next week, because we have a Friday the 13th in September, I'm going to do a special episode dedicated to Friday the 13th. I'm going to rank all those movies, and I have lots of special guests lined up to talk about those movies, including Larry Zerner, who played Shelley in Part 3, Tom Matthews, who played Tommy in Part 6, and Ken Kersinger, who was Jason in Freddy vs. Jason. It's going to be a really fun episode, and I mean, I love the series so much, I've got Jason tattooed on me, so you know I'm going to enjoy doing it. See you guys next week. Today's episode is dedicated completely to Friday the 13th, and like I said, Shelley is kind of iconic. How did you become involved in this movie?
I had a job on the weekend handing out movie tickets to sneak previews of movies. And these two people come up to me and they said, well, we wrote this movie and we think you'd be perfect.
But that's like the Hollywood dream, to be discovered on the sidewalk. And that happened to you. If they made a new movie and they wanted Tom Matthews back as Tommy Jarvis, would you do it?
I would love to reprise my role in the 13th film of the franchise. That would be amazing, yeah.
You are my favorite Jason, and I think it's astounding that you could go one-on-one with Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger in a costume where no one can see your face and you have no lines.
That was a tough job, because on and off screen, because Robert is a legend. And I found that out in no uncertain terms when we went to promote the movie in Europe.
There was one moment you had whacked Taker a couple times in the head with the steel chair, and my buddies and I stood up and we yelled, "One more time," and then you hit him one more time. And I don't know if this is actually the case. I don't know if you did it because of us.
You betcha you were. And I'm going to tell you, at the end of that match, I got one from him, and it is absolutely the hardest I've ever been hit in my entire life. So yes, you, your buddies, and me, we got ours in. But one of us took a heck of a receipt at the end of that thing, and it was me.
From plot twists to the comic strips, Gary's flipping sick.